Hi everyone, this is Shoshana Shear back with another video, and this is the first video sharing what I'm doing in the first of my 30-day challenges. I've given myself 30-day challenges. If you'd like to join me doing one of the challenges, you're welcome to. I have linked in the show notes below and also linked at the very end of this video my video that I created just before this one, which shares about how I came up with the idea of doing 30-day challenges and why I'm doing a series of 30-day challenges. The topic of the first one that I'm working on is to improve my website and get to learn the skills that I need in order to make the changes that I'm needing to do on my website. And so I thought I'd share first a little bit of my journey, how I got to make the changes, how I got to be as stuck as I have been, and what I'm doing and what I'm learning. I'm going to be sharing a certain amount of what I've learned and where I'm at right now, but there's other information that I've learned as well, which I hope to share in another video. I'm on about day 5 of my challenge right now. I'm also journaling my progress, keeping notes, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about what I'm doing on my website. Before I get to that, I want to backtrack a little bit and share a couple of thoughts about building a website. And if you're building your own website, for me, it's been very much a journey in personal development, personal growth. I've needed to really dig inside myself and find the perseverance, the confidence, I don't know, it's been quite a challenge. I'm not trained in anything in technology. Anything that I've been using online or with technology is all things that I've taught myself or I've learned from my husband. And some things have been a little bit intimidating, which is why I've needed to give myself a bit of a challenge to make sure that I complete this task of getting my website to the level that I need it to be. So let's backtrack a little bit, and I'll share a couple of things that when we started working as in Israel, they call it atzma'i, independently working for ourselves as entrepreneurs. The first online space kind of thing that we started developing was blogs done on Blogger, and that's a free service, a free platform. There's a lot of creativity that you can do with putting your own backgrounds and a bit of a theme to the blog. There's quite a lot you can do in the sidebars, and we had quite a lot of fun, and we were progressing with our blogs. Initially, I was just kind of posting randomly quite a lot of newsy type articles, also getting into sharing some articles that were explaining a bit about occupational therapy and trying to figure out which direction I would be going with an online space, trying to figure out where I would be going, what direction I would do in an online space. From starting our blogs, we got to realize the need and to develop our websites, which we did initially on Weebly.com, which is a really nice beginner-friendly platform to use. I'll get in the next video to a couple of tips and information that I've learned about other platforms for websites. But we started, so we had our blog on Blogger and our websites on Weebly, and we realized two things. We realized, number one, that we wanted to have the possibility to have a website that had a blog within it. Plus, we wanted to have our websites to be web accessible, which is a law, and there are certain standards involved, and I'll be getting into a lot more about what web accessibility is. But initially, once we discovered the importance of having a web accessible website, we were given a recommendation, I suppose, to build our websites on WordPress, and I've done a number of tutorials from YouTube and figured out what I can do to learn to build my website myself. It's been quite a process. Initially, I started with one website, which was all my occupational therapy services and the blog on that website. I still had my blogs on Blogger, and it's been a bit of a process and a journey to figure out which of those blogs, the content to keep. I've taken down those blogs, and I now am concentrating on my website with the blog on the website, which is far more time efficient. And somewhere along the journey, I don't remember how much time passed, that I started an online store which had my art and creative gifts. I did consider having just one website, which is really the route that I should have taken, but I had a number of people saying to me, you can't be both an occupational therapist and an artist. I don't actually agree with that, and to a large extent, I'm sorry that I didn't just develop one website from the outset. It would have made things a lot simpler, but as things stand, I had my services on one website and my art and creative gifts on a different website. And then I needed to add either a section on my store for selling a couple of other items that I need to be selling. And I was starting to put that onto my art and creative gifts online store, my Creations from Jerusalem. And I came up against some negative feedback, people saying to me that the buyer persona for art is different to the other items I was needing to sell. You can't have them both on the same website. You can't mix them. All sorts of negative speak, which unfortunately got to me a bit. So I looked into what I could do, since I was needing to make some changes with my Be a Happy Mom website in any case, because I'm not treating in person any longer. I'm doing certain services online and moving more to creating online certain content with my books and my workbooks and my online courses that I'm planning, and certain other products as well. So I needed to make some alterations, and I was looking into having a store on my Be a Happy Mom website as well. And in order to have a store to do e-commerce on that website, I needed to change my theme. So I did some research, and I thought, I've changed my theme before. It was quite easy. I managed to do it. I had certain functionality that I was wanting to improve and to tweak, which I was hoping to do with changing the theme. But for the most part, I was relatively happy with the website that I had. Now comes into changing the theme, and I'd done some research. I'd asked some questions. I got some guidance from some AI tools that I'd come across. I'd asked a number of questions. I looked at a number of videos on YouTube, and I thought I was making a good decision. And then I got a little bit overwhelmed with so many choices of themes, and I nailed it down to, I thought, just 3 themes. The problem was that the tutorials available for building a website on with each of these themes, it brought up so many questions. So eventually I asked a question with, I think it was ChatGPT. I asked a question as to how to know which theme and which tutorial would be better to follow or better to work with. And the recommendation came to try sending a question to find the contact information for those who developed the theme and see what kind of support is available. Now that sounded like a really good idea, so I went ahead and I did so. And out of the 3 options that I had, I received a reply from one of the themes. So I decided I'd give that a try. And I started to make the changes to my website, and I came unstuck. I came along all sorts of obstacles and all sorts of challenges, and I tried following a tutorial, and then I tried following another tutorial, and I came up with all sorts of difficulties on my website, which dragged out and dragged out. And that's the reason that I now am in this situation where I needed to give myself a 30-day challenge to figure out how to find a solution to the problems on our website. In the meantime, actually, some of the difficulties have turned out to be really good, because in having to remove content from my website so that I could try and fix up the problems that were on my website, that helped me to let go of some of the services that I had up, which I was actually not wanting to offer in that, or to word in that manner any longer. So it was partly that I wasn't offering the service, and it's partly that I needed to change the wording and I couldn't think how to do so. So removing that information from my website was actually really, really good. But I wasn't sure how to structure my website in a way that I needed. So eventually, after quite a lot of struggling with my website, trying to find tutorials that would give me the answers, and having time passing and not getting my website complete, and then more time passing and my website still wasn't complete, and more time passing and so it's gone. Eventually I started looking on Amazon to find a book that I could work through that would help me to learn WordPress. I have actually also been looking and interviewing people to help with the web development, but in the meantime I haven't yet found the right person to help me with that, so I'm learning along the way. So I looked on Amazon and I found a couple of options of books about WordPress for beginners. The problem is that looking at the reviews, it sounds as though quite a number of these books are kind of going out of date almost before they're published, because of all the changes and advances that are happening in technology. Some of the books sounded as though they could potentially help me, and I might go and order those as an ebook and read it online, so that I don't get into the situation that I'm trying to get out of having too many books and too much clutter and having to declutter and so on. So I'm thinking of still looking into reading some of those books, because I think I could gain a certain amount of information. But in doing some networking, I was really happy to discover that on WordPress.org there is a course offered. It's called LearnWordPress.org, and you'll find it on, I've got the link coming up, you'll find it coming on the screen as to how you can find the course. And I was really happy to discover that they have a few different levels for learning on WordPress.org as to how to use WordPress. There's a beginner's course, an intermediate, and I understand that there's also an advanced, or perhaps several advanced courses. I'm now about 40% through, completed in working through these videos. There are 24 videos in total for the beginners level of learning WordPress.org, and the videos are broken down into really manageable time slots. So they vary from 4 minutes to 12 minutes so far is the longest video that I've followed, and they're really good. Some of them have a little quiz at the end that you can take, and you do have to sign in to WordPress in order to take the course, and it records how far you've got, how many of the videos you've been through. Underneath the video there's also text of exactly everything that's been said in the video, so you can go and read through that, or you can read through that while you're listening to the video as well. I do recommend watching the video because the person who's giving the video does demonstrate a lot of things that you need to know on the back end of the WordPress. In those courses that do not have a quiz at the end have a little bit of a practical that you can go and test out some of the things that you've learned in that video, and you can test them out at the bottom, so that's rather fun. It also helps you to be able to solidify some of the information that you're learning. And although I'm finding it a little bit difficult to remember all of this information, I think that the format of the course is really good. I do like and appreciate the fact that there's this quiz and the practical opportunity at the bottom, at the end of, in other words, on that page, you go down and underneath the video and underneath all the text, you'll find an opportunity to do some playing around on WordPress. And there you can see to what extent you've understood and mastered, and you can put into practice the information that you're learning. And so that's what I've been doing so far. I hope that I'll be coming back in the next video with a little bit more of what I've learned about a few of the other platforms that you can build a website on. And I think that this video has got to be quite long enough, so I think I'm going to bring it to an end. I hope to share more of what I'm learning along my journey, and also to share a little bit about how I'm starting to apply what I'm learning to finally get that website of mine polished and sorted out. I hope to also share a little bit of decision making that I've been going through, and perhaps some tips that you can gain as well if you're having to build your own website. I hope that that's given you a little bit of insight, a little bit of information. And the one point that I'd like to bring out and to highlight before I end completely is to say that sometimes when you're learning what you need as an entrepreneur working for yourself, you can come up against all sorts of challenges, obstacles, difficulties, and we can look at it in many ways. And initially, I was really frustrated with the mistakes or the problems I was seeing with the changing the theme. And it took a little bit for me to realize that actually it was the best thing that happened, because of enforcing me to remove content and to save it down. I did take a backup, which is another tip that I'm going to bring in again in my next video. Very important to back up before making changes. But aside from that, I downloaded the content and put that into a document. And having now almost like a blank canvas, I was able to start creating the website and changing, and had a little bit of freedom to get to rethink my website. So it has been quite a journey. It can be quite a cathartic journey, but if you work with it, you can learn as I'm learning. There are resources available, like, for example, AI tools that can give you tips. There are tutorials on YouTube that you can look for. There's also, I was very happy to discover that WordPress.org has these courses available, and I recommend that if you're wanting to build a website on WordPress, go ahead and do the courses also. Even if you do end up outsourcing for a web developer, at least you'll be able to know the language, and you'll be able to identify what areas are you really needing help with, what aspects could you do yourself, and perhaps it'll help you with your journey with building a website. I hope that you've learned something and gained something. And with that, I need to get back to learning my next video in the series from WordPress.org. Let me know if you have any questions. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to share another video in a couple of days or next week as to how I'm progressing with my 30-day channel. Shoshana Shea coming to you from Jerusalem. Ciao for now.